Europe once prided itself on its cradle-to-grave welfare model. But now, that safety net is unraveling. Just days ago, it was the Germans, long seen as the continent's rational anchor, who finally said the quiet part out loud. With today's economic reality, Europe can no longer afford to maintain its bloated welfare state. It might have been Germany that voiced it, but the strongest reactions came from France and the UK. Let's start with France, a country that wrote liberté, égalité, fraternité into its constitution and extended welfare to almost every social class. France's public debt has now exceeded 110% of GDP, well above the Eurozone average. Since last year, the country has fallen into a bizarre political loop. Cut benefits, lawmakers argue, people protest, prime minister resigns, government dissolves, new PM installed. This cycle has repeated 5 times in rapid succession, like a bad movie on repeat that no one wants to watch, but everyone has to live through. Then there's the UK, where Brexit brought fewer new freedoms and more sluggish economic growth. Inflation peaked at 11%, while real wages flatlined. Strikes erupted across railways, healthcare, education, you name it. And ironically, just as public services were collapsing, the British government still clung to its aristocratic heirs, spending $8 million a day on hotels for asylum seekers. Meanwhile, disgruntled Britons rallied both online and on the streets, blocking traffic, disrupting daily life. And it's not just France and Britain. Every European country has its own version of this crisis, but they all share the same triangle of pain: budget deficits, immigration waves, and geopolitical shocks. What was once a proudly advertised cradle-to-grave welfare system is now beginning to look like an empty promise. Look at the numbers. France spends nearly $12 billion annually on migrant support. In some northern suburbs of Paris, immigrants make up over 30% of the population. Local healthcare, housing, and schools have been stretched thin for years. In the UK, just in September alone, over 60,000 people crossed the English Channel seeking asylum. Simple question: if migrants get one more meal, does that mean locals go without 3? No wonder the protests. People aren't being cruel. They're just tired of being left behind in their own countries. And then there's the environmental elephant in the room. Europe once led the charge on carbon neutrality, but now it's tripping over its own ambitions. EU climate goals have turned into invisible shackles on traditional industries. Automakers, chemical manufacturers, once Europe's crown jewels, are now weighed down by volatile energy prices and forced green upgrades. The result? Soaring costs, falling competitiveness, and collapsing investment. In my view, Europe made a critical mistake, betting its future on a model it could no longer afford. Faced with US innovation and Asian manufacturing efficiency, Europe's edge is slipping fast. Generous welfare also dulls the labor market. Unemployment benefits reduce job-seeking urgency, high labor costs deter hiring, and overly rigid labor laws sap flexibility. Translation? People got too used to comfort, and now they can't handle the squeeze. Even if governments now want to cut back on welfare to save the budget, they're trapped. Populist sentiment and fragile coalitions make bold policy almost impossible. In Europe's new political theater, the public calls the shots, and politicians are just anxious actors trying not to get booed off stage. But the deeper issue isn't just policy. It's structure. An aging population, fleeing capital, and industrial offshoring have drained Europe's tax base. Combine that with back-to-back crises: financial, sovereign debt, energy, and even the richest households are running out of reserves. Bottom line, welfare isn't the villain, but a welfare system detached from economic fundamentals. That's a long-term illness nobody wants to diagnose. What do you think? Can Europe correct course before the spiral becomes irreversible? Or has it already stepped too far into a dead-end model?